There you go, everybody. All right, just trying to see if I can't center that a little bit better. Just rearranging my office earlier today. Welcome, everybody, to Sketchcraft Gaming. So, as you know, we generally just draw around here, but every so often we get together, the gaming team assembles, and we like to talk about video games. Joining me to do that tonight is Wesley Rusher. Wesley, say hello.
Hello, what's up?
Wesley, you're represented by, I don't know, you want to say where you work? I want to show you your street cred.
Well, currently I work at NZXT, which we're a PC gaming company. So if you build computers and like games like Rocket League and stuff and Counter-Strike, we're involved in like esports and we build just computers.
And you were a freelance gaming journalist and PR guy in the background for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Wesley's got cred. Ashley, let's tell everyone your street cred.
I'm an artist.
What you get? Oh, fuck. She once owned a PlayStation with no save cards. Or was it Nintendo 64? PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is some gaming cred. Like I'm going to tell you right now. There's not a week goes by I don't think about not being able to save Final Fantasy VII or Tactics. Like.
Well, I wasn't there yet. But
I could only imagine you playing Tactics and going.
I think
what?
if I had been older, I would have gotten one. I was like too young to care, I guess. Even though I was still like, I don't understand, like, what's going on.
The closest thing I had. Go ahead.
I think I was confused because the N64 had a built-in memory card, but the PlayStation didn't. So I was like, what's wrong with this?
Well, it didn't actually. Just you could with some of the ROMs save to the ROMs. Otherwise, you had to get a memory card and plug it into your Nintendo 64.
Right.
Which confused the fuck out of everyone. Why are we buying memory cards if we're buying cards? Right, Wesley?
Yeah, I think the closest thing I had to this was the 32X. It was the first system I ever owned that you couldn't connect to a TV via RF, like just screwing it into the coax cable. And I kept thinking, I went through 3 of them thinking they were all broken until I finally realized that I needed the composite red, yellow, white things on a TV. I plugged it into my dad's TV and I was like, oh, whoops, I guess the other 3 worked because I could hear the sound. I just couldn't see the picture.
So we all have some gaming cred. And my gaming cred is, look at that self-promotion. Guess who's on the cover to Game Informer this month? Yep. So after a long hiatus from mainstream American game magazines, the prodigal son returns, right?
What about retro?
Now, they're not mainstream. So here's the thing, though, Wesley. In the spirit of being, classic Wesleyness, I got DOS copies. See that? Wesley buys everything in twos. So now so do I. So I've got DOS copies of the new issue of Game Informer. Videos for making that will be up soon. I couldn't stream anything, so I had to keep it all in the hush-hush. But pretty cool stuff. Wesley, you jealous? No. Wesley was actually cool. Wesley was the first one who saw it. He was like, my son, that was awesome. Wesley was the first one on the internet to give some some praise back,
I mean, I think the best part about it was that I had no idea you did it. I just saw it and I was like, did Rob do that?
Or did they rip Rob off? Right.
Yeah.
People are wondering, though. I'm going to say this and move on. I'm going to say this and move on. People are wondering, did I get credit? Is my name in the magazine? And if you look in the masthead with all the credits, no. But if you read the editorial by the editor-in-chief, Andy McNamara, he lists my name, personal thank you to me right here. So, further proof, I used to tell Dave at Play that no one reads those editorials, but he never believed me. So, we retweeted that on the Twitter. I'm definitely in there. And I got my initials rad on the front, so it's all cool. So, good times. Good year for video game mag. So, I got a French magazine. I've got the Retro. Well, it's not within a year. It's a little over. Megavisions. And Game Informer. It's pretty good. Pretty good. Oh, and this month, Yokoi Watch issue 1 is out, and I got the cover for that too. So there's my gaming cred for the month. Now, we haven't done a gaming cast in fucking a while, so there's tons of shit to talk about all over the board. The board is lit up with stuff. So Wesley, I'm going to let you pick something first. What do you want to talk about?
Oh God. Well, I guess I'll go with the thing that hits the heart the most, which is the Sega Saturn turned 22 today, which it's a weird anniversary, but then again, 22 years ago, Sega dropped the Saturn bomb on the E3 world and surprised everybody by not just announcing that the Saturn was, coming, but that it was out and you could go buy it at select retailers like Software, etc. right then and there.
Now, before you continue on with that story, Ashley, are you aware of this story?
No.
Okay, so this is after the Genesis, after Super Nintendo. Everyone was on edge after the CD, the Sega CD, the 32X. Everyone was waiting for the next gaming system, right? We all knew Nintendo was working on something called Project Reality with SGI. We didn't know what was going to go on. Everyone was waiting. Some of these Philips CDIs came out and the 3DOs, and they sucked. We wanted what was going to be Sega's and Nintendo's next big move. And so Sega goes to E3, which is in about a month, right?
The next E3? Yeah, it's about a month this year. But yeah, traditionally it's been anywhere from like May to early June.
Right. So they go to E3, and now E3 back in 1994, 95, right? I mean, it was huge.
It was 95, yeah.
Was it the Consumer Electronics? Was it still part of that? It was his own thing.
It was E3 at this point.
Okay, so it was E3. They get up, Ashley. Sega gets up and goes, "We got a new system. Here it is. Here's everything you're gonna get with it, and it's available now." Dropping the bomb. Right? What was the price?
$400.
$399. That's what they said. $399. Everyone was like, "Holy shit, it's out!" Nobody knew. Ashley, no retailers.
Nobody knew it was out in Japan since the previous fall.
Yeah, but nobody knew because of the era that it came out in.
Right, and no retailer leaked any. No one knew. So you can buy it now. It was confusing. Like, what's going on? And so you would think, well, that's a pretty cool idea, right? Like, you drop a new system out of nowhere at E3. And you think you'll get the upper hand, shockwave factor, it's available now, surprise everyone, big splash. What happened immediately after that, Wesley?
Sony had their press conference, which they were unveiling the PlayStation. And they unveiled a more powerful system, but the kicker was, not only was it better at doing 3D, it was $100 less.
Yes! $299. That's what they said, $299. And no one bought a Saturn. Like, this is why companies are so afraid to announce their systems at E3 now. You ever notice that, Ashley? Like, are they going to unveil it? And like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a couple things too. Not only when they announced it early, they only did select retailers, so they pissed off like Walmart, for example. Mm-hmm. And Walmart never carried the Saturn.
Nope. And so this is also why they don't announce a system. They always announce a system at least a year early. So no one can do that because you can't adjust the price with your exclusive retailers on the day. Like, it was an amazing move. It just, gosh, that every magazine. It took a month or two to catch up, in the game magazine sphere, but it made the news on the news, and I just remember being like, well, fuck the Saturn. Which I made a mistake. I ended up getting one after the fact because the Saturn had some amazing. It was designed to be the ultimate 2D gaming machine, like a super, super, super Nintendo, or a super, super, super Mega Genesis. And because PlayStation was moved completely into 3D space with 3D games, Sega of America, right, Wesley, they were trying to push 3D on the Saturn, which it kind of just wasn't made to do, like.
Yeah, so I mean, because PlayStation had been out earlier in Japan, so like they definitely had wind of it, like knew what was coming. So yeah, they threw in an extra 32-bit processor in the system to help it do 3D graphics. But instead, they just made it super hard to program for. So
this was the year, right? It was this year within this year that Virtua Fighter 2 came out on Sega Saturn, and it was kind of like a so-so port. And
Virtua Fighter 2 is awesome. It was Virtua Fighter that was like meh, the original.
But Virtua Fighter, I remember they had one on the 32X.
They did.
And they had one on the Saturn.
Virtua Fighter. They launched Virtua Fighter on the Saturn, and it wasn't a very good port. And then they did the Virtua Fighter remix, where they had like cleaned it up
on 32X.
Made it way. No, on Saturn.
Okay, the 32X. Sorry, go ahead and talk.
The 32X version is okay. It is what it is for the 32X, but
yeah,
the Saturn version was garbage. And then they released like a like a 1.5 version of Virtual Fighter.
But this is before you could do online updates, so you had to go and buy another version.
Yep.
Full price. So Saturn was tough, man. But Ashley, if you were into 2D gaming, like if you like Capcom Fighters, Marvel superheroes, they're one of my favorite RPGs of all time, Dragon Force, which I don't want to promote here again, but on the back of the Game Informer cover, I have hidden right up here. I put Dragon Force up in here. It's way up here. So I don't think it made the list, but I had to represent Dragon Force. Dragon Force is an amazing game. 2D.
That was the game that made me buy a memory card for the Saturn.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the cool thing about the Saturn is it had internal storage. It had battery backup, so you didn't need a memory card to save your games to it. But it was very limited. You can only save, like a very small handful. And I think Dragon Force was the game that I think the save files exceeded the memory, or if you saved more than once, you were screwed.
And I was way into arcade Street Fighter tournaments at the time. Like I was going up to Sunnyvale to Golfland or whatever, where Alex Val and all these guys were out there playing these little tournaments. I mean, I was never that good, but I would go there and, place like 30 or 40 or whatever out of like 100 dudes. But I bought a Saturn because that was the closest I could get to arcade emulation for Alpha 2, Marvel superheroes, Darkstalkers, owned all that shit. And then there were some really great gems on the Saturn as well beyond those games. I mean, Panzer Dragoon Saga, which, is a rail shooter, but pretty fucking good. Symphony of the Night.
That one's an RPG, so it's on rails, but it's still like turn-based combat.
I know, but I always was more like Star Fox meets an RPG, right? Like if it was like Star Fox RPG.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of great games on the Saturn. So 22 years old. Do you think, Wesley, there's any chance we'll get a Saturn Mini?
Probably not. I mean, like I said, that thing's so complicated. It's a big reason you don't see a lot of Saturn ports that have come from it.
What was the game? Was it Princess Crown? The guys that made Odin Sphere.
Mm-hmm.
What was it?
Vanillaware.
Vanillaware. They did their first game.
Was Princess Crown. That's correct.
Yeah, that was an amazing, highly underrated. And Legend of Oasis. Was it Legend of Oasis?
Yeah, that was the sequel to Beyond Oasis.
Yeah, Ashley, if you ever get into Saturn emulation and you can only play one game and you like old school Zelda, there's a game on the Saturn called Legend of Oasis, and it's like a top-down Zelda-style game, but in the vein of like Aladdin and Prince of Persia. So it's all Middle Eastern and super animated, super hand-drawn, super colorful. Like
big sprites.
Big sprites.
Yeah,
big sprites.
Very...
Man. Yeah, it's a shame. 22 years.
Yeah, I think so. Real quick, favorite game? Do you have one?
On the Saturn?
Yeah.
Dragon Force.
Okay.
It's
definitely, that could be my favorite. I think my go-to, like if I was stuck with one game for the rest of my life, would be Guardian Heroes. But yeah, Dragon Force, top 3 easily.
Yeah, with strategy RPGs, I can keep playing them like chess. Like for some reason, I don't get that bored with it. But there's 7 different kingdoms in Dragon Force and multiple storylines. And I have yet to play through all of them, honestly. So I do wish they had made all 3 parts of Shining Force 3.
Yeah.
Because they released Shining Force 3. This is great, actually. So Shining Force 1 and 2 came out on the Genesis. They're like my top favorite RPGs of all time. And then they released Shining Force 3, which is going to be 3D with this. There's going to be 3D eyes. And they released 1/3 the game here. Because they tried to do in Japan, they were already practicing with episodic titles. Kind of like how the Telltale does that Walking Dead episode 1, episode 2. They tried that.
I think even closer is the last Fire Emblem, where there was 2 versions. Like they did it first, where you play as each faction. There's 3 factions in the game. Each story is their point of view, and that's exactly what the last Fire Emblem was.
But there's a complete game there. Shining Force 3 is literally 1/3. It's just that it's 1/3 the game, and they never brought the other 2 here. So I still don't think there's fan translations of it. So bummer.
But it's like, but the other parts aren't continuations of what you played. They're the story from another point of view.
Yeah, but it's short. Force. You know what I'm saying? It's not like the same length as Shining Force 2, or even Shining Force Sega Shining Force CD.
Yeah.
Shining Force CD is pretty. If there's any reason to own a Sega CD, it's that.
Or Game Gear. Those are just ports of the Game Gear version games.
But far better than the Game Gear. I'm out,
I know.
the Game Gear. You can play Columns, All right, everybody, let's move on. Ashley, what do you want to talk about? Ashley?
I'm right here. I'm sorry. I'm just muted. Anyways, let's do some backlogging. So I played Tales of the Borderlands, speaking of Tales. And it's the first Tales game I've ever played. But naturally I would pick Borderlands because I'm a fan of Borderlands. And so I really like the game. I actually did not know what I was in for because, again, I'd never played a Tales game. So I didn't realize that basically, like, okay, spoilers just in case. If you don't want to hear any, just FYI. I might spoil some stuff for you. Anyways, but when I was playing the game, obviously if you're not familiar, everything is decision based. So there can be multiple outcomes to everything. And you really don't shoot things. I mean, you do shoot things, but everything is a quick time event. So if you need to shoot somebody, it's like press R2 and point it here, and then shoot, or, but mostly, or, get out of the way, so that'd be like push left, or push right. But mostly you're just, they're talking, and then it'll give you 4 options, and you pick which option you want to choose. And it's funny because, like, the first time, like, I'm actually worried about how I'm making characters feel, even though they're not real. And but I gotta say there was like more than like if you're not familiar with Borderlands, it's like it's M-rated, but it's not too gory. But like this game like really goes there. Like it's like so like there's one part where there's like some parts where like I've never wished more than in this game that I had the ESP, the ability to do ESP, the ability of ESP because
in general or in the game?
In general, because the game makes you like scoop out a guy's eye with a spoon or a spork, and then there's like one part where you have to peel like a guy's face off of a like someone's wearing a guy's face, and you have to peel that face off, and you're just like, please don't make me look at it. Like I'm like trying not to look, but I have to look because I have to like move the controller, and it's hilarious. Like it goes there. So it's a game that'll really make you squirm, but also really make you think about your decisions. So it's a really cool game. Like that's what I'm just trying to say is like I find myself thinking about it, like after I played it, like, did I make the right choice? Oh my gosh, I made that person mad, or, and so, it's a really cool game. And I really, again, all the characters are really likable, so they do a really good job with the storytelling. And, and from what I heard, like, as far as the other Tales games go, like the Tales from the Borderlands was a huge success, like maybe more than some of the others. And last thing, for their engine that they use, I think that Borderlands worked pretty well for it. As far as like, I've heard that some people kind of complain that the Tales games look really robotic, like you're looking at a Chuck E. Cheese, like robot sing-along song kind of thing. And so that their engines, like, I guess it's just really old. I'm not really sure, but I think part of that comes from just their studio used to be really small, and then it kind of like ballooned, and now they're really successful. But I think they're in this pattern of they're like still using the same engine because I guess it's what they're used to. I'm not really sure. Like Wesley, do you have any input on this?
Yeah, I think you're referencing, I think it was an article by Patrick Klepek that he just wrote on Waypoint, talking about like the robotic animations. And you're right. I mean, some people they're okay with it. Some people, I get Guardians of the Galaxy feels a little stiff to people.
Yeah, time out 1 second, folks. Time out 1 second before you continue. We're talking about the Telltale game engine, right? Yeah. And not the actual Borderlands game.
No. I'm just saying, like, that for.
Okay. I just want to clarify.
I
get that. I get that. You don't have to preface. I just want to clarify.
So not Borderlands. Tales, yeah.
Right. So Tales of Borderland, the Telltale engine that they've been using for Tales of Borderland, Walking Dead, the Batman,
Game of Thrones, Batman,
Wolf Among
Guardians of
Us,
the Galaxy.
right? Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, now Wesley, go.
So, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest problem people have with it is, as the studio has gotten bigger, it's still very buggy. There's a common occurrence where people lose save file progression, hard crashes. I don't know if you came across any of that while playing in Tales of Borderland.
The only thing I came across was, and I'm not even really sure that it wasn't my fault, but I'm pretty sure it's like I saw the little icon, the Borderlands icon, which is the save icon, or the logo is the save icon. And I was like, okay, that's safe. I can quit the game now. And so the next day when I go, to play again, it like set me back like 10, 15 minutes, and I was like, whoa, wait, I've already done this. Like, what's going on? And part of me wonders, I'm pretty sure I didn't, but part of me wonders if I didn't accidentally mistake a loading screen for a save point, because they have loading screens. And I don't think that the game saves at the loading screens. So my brain maybe thought it did, but I could have sworn I saw the logo. So I think that was the only time I saw a hiccup. So
I've had save corruptions on the Walking Dead.
Yeah, I lost when episode 3 came out of the original Walking Dead. I lost it all, and so I eventually just stopped playing it. And I went back like years later and finally went through it.
Yeah,
I go way back to Telltale's first game, Bone. People forget, like, their first game was an adaptation of the Bone comic book, which is one of my favorite comic books of all time. Like, I've been waiting for them to make a movie out of this forever, which I hear it's in active development, but we shall see. And the graphics weren't that good. It's like really bad CGI stuff. And I'm a big fan of point-and-click adventures way back in the day, from Maniac Mansion through Full Day of the Tentacle, Full Throttle, Space Quest, all that stuff. And Bone was just so limited. I was like, then they did a Sam & Max, and that was okay, but still. And they hit like parody with some of the older point-and-click adventures with The Walking Dead. But yeah, the engine was just glitchy. Like, I would have a save, and it would be corrupted. I'd have to start over. The saves wouldn't carry over like they were supposed to. Did you have that problem, Wesley? Like, you remember you could like carry your info from one to the next episode?
Yeah. When episode 3 came out, it didn't carry, and then I kept trying. I kept moving, save files around, trying different things. Actually, I was working for Destructoid at the time, so the PR, they gave me a file that was close to like some of the choices I had made, and it still wouldn't load.
So I guess they still have some of that problems, or they're using the same engine.
Yeah, it's still the same engine. So I remember with Batman, they added a physics engine for the first time, so his cape has physics. They just haven't updated it. They're getting bigger. They're doing all these different, properties. It's almost, I don't think they're turning out too many, because it's almost like, they're like a TV network, when it comes to video games. And here's, different shows that they're doing, which is cool. But yeah, it definitely could use an overhaul. They lost a lot of key people earlier this year, late last year. I can't remember that, what they like, Ubisoft of all places. Some like creative minds. So it'd be interesting to see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, they could definitely, like, that engine, it's been the same engine since last generation, and the games don't look much more next gen, like Tales of Borderlands runs on 360 the same as it does like on PC.
Based on the decision making aspect of the game, couldn't they make that in Unreal 4? Like, I don't think that logic would be too far out of Unreal's wheelhouse, right? Like, it's just if then that. Essentially, I know the guy somewhere out there's a programmer at Telltale's like, motherfucker, yeah, it's so easy, just yes and no, but essentially, yeah, I mean, if you can make a Zelda game or a Mario game in Unreal, I think you can make Tales from Borderlands in Unreal 4. I don't think it's that.
I just think we're just due for like an overhaul, something that will help with the animation, help Unreal. With the problems that they're having with like hard crashes in the save files. I think one thing that you do have to give them credit for, and another reason that probably why there's bugs in their games, is when they release these games, it comes out on everything. It comes out on iPhone and Android and PC and every console. So they're probably stretched a little thin when it comes to
and they're probably
QA.
doing everything like really quick, because some of these episodes, like, I'm not saying that they regularly release, but they come out like months apart or a month apart depending on. And so I think I'm not really sure what the behind the scenes work looks like, but
it feels like they're definitely working on some of these, like Walking Dead season 3, episodes 1 and 2 were launched simultaneous, and then it was like 3 months before we got episode 3, and then I think episode 4 is like right behind it. So
yeah, so I don't really know like how fast they have to work, but I'm sure it's pretty fast.
So if you followed the Double Fine adventure when they were making Broken Age over at Double Fine's YouTube page, there's one of the episodes where they finally can play test Broken Age, which is an adventure game. And Tim Schafer, head of Double Fine, creator of Broken Age and a million other point-and-click adventures, talks about the difficulty in getting people to play test adventure games, because the whole point of playtesting is you get to play it over and over. And with adventure games, because they're always based around a story, people get a story and a puzzle. Once people figure it out, they don't want to do it again. And so you got to get them, like, playtesting adventure games is like just the most monotonous, tedious thing to do, essentially. And I imagine with their limited, alpha or beta time to playtest or Q&A, even then, like, so you got a limited amount of time, plus you got a format of game that is sort of dependent upon first time you see it, it's like, oh, damn, and then the second time, oh, well, I know, and then the third and the fourth, there's not like
I could totally see that. I worked as a tester for a while, and I worked on a JRPG, which is pretty linear, and you make some choices, but that game, I worked on Persona 3 Portable, and you spend 90 hours to get through that game, and it's just like, oh, I have to go through this game at least 3 more times. I had way more fun playing a cheesy Xbox Live game called Xenoclash, and it was a first-person shooter because you could run around and do different things. I could constantly figure out different ways to break the game, but a game like Persona, it's like one path, and it's really hard to experiment and cure the monotony of what happens after you run through the same game with the same story and the same outcomes that you can't really change too much over and over and over.
Right. So at the end of the day, Tales of Borderlands, Ashley, gory. Don't be surprised. Don't be tricked by the cartoony exterior. Right. Pretty violent.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really funny because there's like moments where it's like it's really cute, and like you're like, oh, and then they got some moments where you're just like, oh wow, that's disturbing, But that's like the fun part about it. There's such a contrast,
So
it's
my
fun.
nephew who played Minecraft Adventure, don't recommend this one for him.
I don't know.
No. Wesley's being facetious.
Yeah, no, probably not when it comes to the face part. I don't think so. That was like really. I was like, oh, I gotta look away real quick.
Because I'm pretty sure he has played Borderlands.
Yeah, but this is different. I mean, this is like showing stuff that it's like a little more invasive of like it just goes there, Whereas Borderlands is like, oh, you shoot somebody and you see some blood and party parts explode, but it's not like getting up close and personal, and you're not like getting your hands and just, you know what I mean? You just go, and so this is a little bit different. So
awesome.
Yeah, I'd say I don't know.
All right, let's move right along. Wesley, what else we got?
You tell me, bro. I think isn't it your turn?
Okay, I'll talk about this one. So, ding dong, the witch is dead. Check this shit out. Finally, it has happened. I've been waiting for this since around 2005. Oh, I clicked the wrong button. Hold on one second. It's gonna pick the wrong thing.
Did it run out of lives?
No, I'm going to OBS is going to select the wrong. I'm going to have to reboot OBS. Nope. There we go. So, Mad Catz, if you're not aware who Mad Catz are, they make a bunch of shitty peripherals and have for years. Finally filed for bankruptcy back on April 1st. Now, a lot of people thought this might be an April Fool's joke, but I assure you it was not. As a kid, I really appreciated third-party peripherals that were designed for like niche gaming. Like ASCII used to have the greatest pads called ASCII pad. They have Capcom certified, D-pad games and sticks and arcade sticks and whatnot. And the Nintendo even had the NES Advantage and the Max Turbo. But Mad Catz always made the shitty fucking like you'd get a controller and it'd have like weird. They look like the things. Forgive me for lack of. Sometimes it looked like they had dildo attachments put to the controllers. Like I don't know how to explain like weird nubbies. Like you know what I mean? Like weird cat toy scrubber things. Like to look. I don't know. There was this weird design aesthetic Mad Catz had, and they were located 1 block from my school, my art college thing. I was going to AI, and so we constantly would do fucking projects with Mad Catz, like promotional projects, and we'd go down there and they'd have all their gaming stuff on the wall, and they only made one controller that was ever interesting. It was called the Neo Retro or something like that, the RetroCon, and it was like this NES kind of style USB pad you could plug into PS2, PS3 eventually, and that was kind of cool. Everything else sucked, and that place was falling apart. I used to do all the signage for Mad Catz when I worked at Kinko's because we were the Kinko's that was closest to them as well. And so when we would go into that place, I'd be like, yeah, I made this, I made that, I made this, I made that, I made this. And people there were like, I was like, hey, when am I getting a job here? And they'd look at me and like, like, I don't quit your Kinko's job, buddy. This place, it's on the third leg. They had a little bit of a, what do you call that? A second wind when Street Fighter 4 came out because they actually made a pretty decent fighting stick for that.
Yeah, they're the sticks they made for Street Fighter 5 are even better. They did Street Fighter 4, and then they did like a second wave, like their Tournament 2 sticks, and they're really good. They had a guy named Mark Julio who basically got them to import all Japanese parts.
So I feel like, if I remember right, there was this guy making these really badass arcade sticks, and it was all based around arcade parts. I have one of those original ones, and then Mad Catz either bought them or followed suit. Right, and then actually started putting quality shit into these fucking arcade sticks, and it just was too little, too late. So,
well, I think they were doing okay, but I think definitely the thing that was their demise was when they invested in a Rock Band 4.
Remember, was it E3 2010 or 2011 when you had a new Rock Band? Then you had that. What was that other one? Like you really play guitar, like you learn guitar. There was this.
Oh, wasn't that like Ubisoft?
Someone else had this stupid fucking thing. That went nowhere. And there was also, it was like right after or right before the Tony Hawk skateboard debacle where you had to buy a giant fucking plank, take it home, and stand on it like a moron. And we spoofed that in the Super Catchword video. Remember that? But, yeah, they invested into Rock Band. I don't know why. Rock Band's gone, man. It's dead. It's been dead
Rock Band VR, man.
Yeah, you could just record the Metallica concert in VR and I could pretend like I'm there too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, man. It came and went. So, Mad Catz is done. Ashley, did you ever get a Mad Catz controller?
Yeah, I had one. I don't remember what it was. Wait. Maybe GameCube. I'm not sure. Can't remember.
Yeah, all the years I worked at GameStop and selling Mad Catz controllers, and them always coming back. And then there was Pelican, which is like PDP. They changed their name, so they sound a little bit more classier. And then GameStop went in bed with both of them and started just putting GameStop brand on the Mad Catz controllers. So you would look at the shelf, there'd be the Mad Catz controller and the GameStop controller. They'd be exactly the same. They just had different logos.
Clever.
And they're all pieces of crap. Those stupid Afterglow controllers, which I think those were Pelican, but
you know what they reminded me of? So way back in the day, in Nintendo Power magazine, there was this contest, and it was design your own Game Boy. And the winner It was like you design an exterior, like a shell, like a new Game Boy, and send in your drawings, and whoever wins would actually get that Game Boy. They would make it. And as an artist, me and my art friends were amazed. We can design a Game Boy. Oh my gosh, And so we sent our designs, and mine never got printed. But the magazine came out, and there was all these weird drawings, like fins coming off the Game Boy, and nubs, and fucking all this weird shit. And you look at it like, oh, that looks stupid. None of them looked classy or like, oh, that's something I would. None of them improved upon the actual the Game Boy design. It was just a lot of weird fucking nonsense. It looked like Homer's car from The Simpsons, the Homer. And when I would see the Mad Catz controllers, they always reminded me of those shitty Game Boy designs. Like, yeah, I guess that's why Nintendo doesn't do a bunch of stupid things with their.
I was at Fry's today, and they still had Mad Catz controllers on the shelf. They had like PlayStation 4 Fight Pad, which exactly what you say. Like, it has like. On the left-hand side of the controller, it has the arch that fits into your palm, and then it just jets out like a gun. There's no equivalent shape on the right-hand side. I'm just like, what is this? And it looks like a nice D-pad, but it also has an analog one analog stick as well.
Let's do really quick. Let's do a little Mad Catz controller search on Google, and you can kind of see some of this bullshit. Like, look at this Nintendo 64 controller. Like a really thin, just weird shit.
Well, I remember the one controller they made for the GameCube. It was tiny. Like, the GameCube controller is already small, and they made a smaller one.
Yeah, what was the thing you most wanted with the GameCube controller? An even tinier D-pad. Like it was already the Game Boy Advance D-pad. Like, what the fuck is that? It's a super pad.
Look at that grip.
This is just the dumbest fucking controllers ever. And the packaging always came that clamshell packaging, which you could never get it the fuck out. You had to get steak knives to cut through that shit. Mad Catz controllers. This was like I said, the Street Fighter 4 ones were decent. These were pretty decent. It's very similar to the Dreamcast ASCII pad, the Capcom, which I had on my Dreamcast, which I loved dearly. So there was someone at the end who kind of tried to help right the wrongs of Mad Catz, but this bullshit here.
That's a good pad. I have that.
Yeah, this bullshit here, the see-through fucking cheap plastic, nubby handle nonsense, piece of junk, would be something like, I'd see I was in the Army when a lot of that stuff was out, and I'd always see like my Army friends would come in there and they'd have those controllers, and I'd go, hold on, I'd leave, go all the way back down to my room and bring an official controller down. I'm like, I'm not fucking using this shit. They're like, oh, you're too good for my controller. I'm like, yes, I'm too good for your controller. This is a piece of shit.
I mean, I'm not gonna like stereotype, but I want to say the number one buyers of Mad Catz controllers at the GameStop I worked at were Marines.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know why they all had them, bro. And I just learned to always keep a controller on me when I'd go to someone else's billet, like so I can just fucking.
They're just price conscious. That's all. They were a little bit more affordable. So
now when it comes to their Copenhagen, I guarantee you, like they had no problem there.
Well, they got to save that money for the Copenhagen.
Right. All right, Wesley, pick something else before we got to wrap.
Let's see. Darksiders 3. Meh?
Sure, why not? So what about it?
Yeah. It got leaked a day early, thanks to Amazon. And then IGN had like the exclusive trailer, which looked like a PS2 trailer. Just really bad CG. But they came back like a week later with some actual early alpha gameplay, which looks interesting. But you play as a new protagonist, Fury, another open world action game. You're battling the 7 deadly sins. So I think that's like gluttony in that one picture, the big fat toad looking thing in the back, like the bottom left picture underneath the main one.
The green dude?
Yeah, he seemed like floating. I think if you go back to what we're looking at. Yeah. So yeah, but the one thing that's bumming me out is apparently what I read is it takes place during the events of Darksiders 1 again, which means it runs semi-perpendicular to Darksiders 2 as well.
Okay.
So I guess they really want to make them all in the equal playing field when they hopefully eventually get to 4 or 5. But yeah, I really like the first Darksiders. You know, it's a great take on like the Ocarina of Time formula. I like Darksiders 2. It was a little bit different. It was kind of more Prince of Persia meets Diablo. So I'm hoping this one has its own unique style to it as well.
I'm gonna dig up some images here because I don't know about you, but it just doesn't. The lighting doesn't look nearly as good as even the remaster. But maybe that's my. I just think the art direction is
the same. It's the same team that did the remasters, which are a bunch of ex-Vigil people who worked on the first two. Obviously, the main brains behind Darksiders aren't with this game.
Yeah, Joe Mad and them were making Dark Battle Chasers and stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, just the weight and the painting of the characters, you know, like, just, I don't know, man. Maybe this looks more like Dodge and Bernie with the lighting. Like, the lighting are like.
Yeah, I
you know what I'm
see
talking
that,
about, Ashley?
for sure.
Like,
Yeah.
looks less painterly, looks more Dodge and Bernie.
Yeah. Like, when you were talking about Battle Chasers, like, I know I'm not talking about that, but I've seen the art for that, and that's really cool. Like, I mean, but this is a little bit, like you said, more Dodge and Bernie. The other one, Battle Chasers, is more like cartoony, and it just pops more. Kind of like, like, I don't know how to explain it.
It's less painterly compared to Darksiders 2 or even the remaster. Like, it's pretty awesome with the lighting there and the texturing, and then looks kind of, So, I don't know, man. I mean, look, when there's something to play, you know, if the color's not as good as the other one, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and nitpick over a 20% difference, you know. Hopefully, you know, it's fun to play. It's awesome. I still have a sealed copy of the first game. When I was at Play, the first magazine that I was a part of was the Darksiders issue with Joe Matt. He did the cover. Then I did this secondary cover, which no one wanted, which, believe me, I don't blame him. It was a stupid MX bike fucking thing. ATV thing. When they were like, Rob, you can do this the last second. I'm like, fuck, you know. But I kept my copy from Darksiders, and then I bought one on a PS3. So, and then Darksiders 2 is awesome. But, you know, like, it's cool. I think it is weird, though, right, Wesley? Like, Amazon leaked this stuff from an alpha build? Like, how does that work out?
No, they leaked this, you know, they probably started taking pre-orders once it got announced. So it was in their database early, and then they just populated it a night, you know, too soon. And then IGN had the official unveiling, like, the next day.
Well, Fury's in the original game. I mean, she's not a new character, but she's new to be playable. It is nice to see that they're making her a playable character, because I think a lot of people were like, there's no way they're going to make a female protagonist for Darksiders, you know? And I'm like, why wouldn't they? So it's great to see that they're doing that, you know?
So I went to 2 preview events for Darksiders 2, one for Destructoid and then one for GameFan, and the second time I got to interview Joe, and, you know, talking to them, the original idea behind Darksiders was to do like 4 individual games of each, you know, writer of the apocalypse, and then to possibly then do something like a 4-player co-op or something like that. You know, it was definitely a pipe dream. But at least the idea was that each character would get their own starring role.
And they're doing that, so that's pretty cool. I hope it plays like Lords of Shadow. I mean, she's got a whip, right? So, Josh from the forum says that, you know, definitely doesn't have that WoW style glowy feel, but it still looks good. Yeah, it still looks fine. If it plays like Lords of Shadow, the first one, we're in good territory. I mean, Castlevania Lords of Shadow is
there's some
underrated.
video footage out there you can find on IGN or probably on YouTube as well. And it's a very early alpha build. She's just, you know, walking through an environment. She uses her whip to swing from like a tree, and then she starts like whipping enemies. And it's very early because the sound effect is just like a whoosh. Like it's the same. It's just the same effect over and over, no matter if she hits like a big guy or a little guy.
Like when I tell Brandon to do stuff, everyone hears whoosh, right? Go get me turkey pot pie. Okay, Rob, I'll go get you turkey pot pie. So, It's cool, man. I'm glad they're making it. You know, I am glad they're making it. So, Vigil might end up being. I mean, was it? Sorry, Silver, Deep Silver. Who picked it up in Germany? The studio that bought up all that stuff. Was it Deep Silver?
No, Nordic Games, which is
Nordic.
now THQ Nordic, and I'm sure in like a year they'll just be THQ again.
I don't. But they were a German company that bought everything up, right?
Well, they were Nordic, I guess. I don't think German, Swedes maybe. I don't know. They were called Nordic Games who bought everything.
Okay, Nordic Games bought them.
But they've renamed themselves THQ Nordic.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they picked up all the pieces and hopefully they don't revive the THQ.
Yeah, they picked up
brand.
like Darksiders and like I think the MX games and the Blob. They just released the Blob on PC. Because why not?
Boy and His Blob, or just like the movie?
No, Da Blob. It was like a Wii game.
Da Blob. All right.
Da
yeah.
Blob.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Da Blob.
Da
Bears. Yeah. Da Bears. So yeah, I mean, look, I don't hope they revive THQ. I don't long for the days of THQ to come back. If anyone revived,
maybe they'll bring U-Draw back for the Switch.
I was at the last time I was at E3, they unveiled that, and I looked right at the THQ rep because Dave was in bed with THQ marketing. They basically funded half of Play, and I looked at him. I'm like, "You're all gonna lose your job in a year. Like, there's no fucking way." There's no fucking way.
I went to a U-Draw Pictionary event in San Francisco where we had teams from like every outlet, and Destructoid won the tournament. And then they gave everybody U-Draws, and as we walked out, they still had like 30 because none of the journalists would even take it. Like, no, it's okay. No,
for
it's okay.
free.
So yeah, me and my cohort took a bunch and we gave them away on the stream that we did, but it was still pretty funny.
I called Dave from the floor, and that was the E3. It was THQ's last big E3. They had Warhammer Space Marine action game, a Warhammer Space Marine top-down, digital-only sort of like, kind of Robotron-ish kind of game. They had a Warhammer Space Marine MMO. Right, they had the U-Draw on every platform, 360, PS3. And I was like, fucked. And now hardware, dead. And I called Dave, and I'm like, we're in trouble. With Game Family, we're in deep trouble. He's like, what? No, man, the Chainsaw game looks great. I'm like, Dave, I'm telling you, it's not great, and this is bad. And they were gone a year later. They didn't make it.
Yeah, I did. So Game Fan, when I was with Game Fan, we did Comic-Con with them. We split our booth for Darksiders 2, and they took half of it. And because Darksiders got delayed, so they didn't have room at their main booth, which their main booth was showing off South Park, and I can't even remember what the other game was, but I think it's probably like Warhammer or something. It was like 2 games, but yeah, they didn't even, as we all know, Ubisoft ended up publishing South Park, so they didn't even get to finish that one. Luckily, Darksiders was out like within a month, and it was pretty much one of the last games.
Yep. We got time for one more. Ashley, is there anything you want to bring up? Is there any topic you want to throw in there?
Nah, you go. You go.
I thought this was kind of cool. I'll bring this up, and then we'll save some of the other stuff for later. Is how familiar are you all with 90s comic books? Wesley, you familiar with Image?
Yeah, somewhat. I guess late 90s, high school time, so late 90s for me.
So Image Comics launched in 1992, and one of the books was a book called Shadowhawk, and he was kind of like a Iron Man meets Wolverine. His armor looked like a metallic Wolverine outfit, and his big thing was he broke backs. That's what he did. He broke people's backs. That was his. It's a simpler time, Ashley. And apparently, a video game was being developed for the Super Nintendo that never came out, and the ROM for that video game actually leaked. So I'm gonna turn the music off here and try to play about 10 seconds of it. But you can kind of see.
Are you gonna get
DMC8 on a ROM? I will.
on a
Image. I will. Let's just jump into. It's got like a little bit of a grappling hook, kind of like a Bionic Commando play style here. But look, you can do flips. It's actually pretty decent animation for a little Super Nintendo brawler. Like you could swing around like Spider-Man.
Yeah, it looks just like one of those old Spider-Man games.
Yeah, but faster. It's got those sound effects. Crack. Because you break
He,
backs, right?
he just beat up, looks like Gambit.
Back, back, back. Break the back. Let's jump forward.
And the trench coat.
I think you fought a lot of these guys with the...
Oh, it does look like him.
That's like Guile right there.
Or bad dudes.
Yeah, bad dudes.
Bad dudes.
Hey, we live in a world now where our president literally called people bad.
That's not.
He called bad guys bad dudes. It's like they're bad dudes, and I'm like, this is amazing.
I can't wait till the Ninja Gaidens attack. So like how many like 90s style brawlers can you throw into a political conversation? That would be amazing. Get me on camera. I'd love to do it. The bad dudes, and gotta watch out for these Gaidens and. God damn, dude. But yeah, so Shadowhawk, that's pretty cool. Like every now and then a little ROM makes its way through the internet. Aside from it having like Shadowhawk on there, like I would have been amazed by that when I was a kid. But there was a Spawn game that did come out on the Super Nintendo, which wasn't great, but was very similar to Ninja Gaiden, just with some magical spells. So it wasn't bad. It was actually a pretty decent little platform. I think that era had a lot of those kind of platformers, but there was a lot of Final Fight clones, and I think the best of them was they did a Death and Return of Superman. Blizzard, I think, made it or published it on Super Nintendo, and you went through the entire storyline of the Death and Return of Superman, all 4 Supermen, in a Final Fight style, Streets of Rage style gameplay mode, and it was actually pretty good. Like for what it was, I mean, it's not a great story, but it's what we had, folks. It's all we had, and we didn't get much. So, SNES, Shadowhawk, Breaking Backs. You going to be compelled to go download that, Ashley? Go play some of the ROM?
No. Wait, what was that on? what game system?
Well, it was supposed to be Super Nintendo, so you'd have to play it through emulation.
I did not have a Super Nintendo. I actually had a NES, but so I just understand. I'm familiar, sort of.
I was just looking up Image games, like which Image comics have had video games, and yeah, there was just Todd McFarlane's Spawn, the video game. That was the Super Nintendo game.
There was a Wildcats one, I believe. I want to say there was a Wildcats SNES game.
It's not showing up in here, at least.
Wildcats. Let's see if I'm right.
There's some weird ones. Like,
yes,
I didn't know
there's a Wildcats SNES game.
Scud the Disposable Assassin on Dreamcast.
By the way,
Saturn.
Yeah, I'll get into that in a second. I'll wrap that. I'll end with that story. But yeah, see, there's a Wildcats. So we would have had Spawn, Wildcats, and Shadowhawk. But it was actually, the Wildcats was a pretty decent They were all Final Fight clones, guys. That's basically, the comics were mostly just running around punching people too. But it was pretty good, I mean, for what it was, at the time. This is what Blockbuster Video was for, folks. No one bought these things. You rented them from Blockbuster Video. That was, I mean, I loved it, but, it was a, cash, what do they call that, licensing thing, you just license it, make the thing, and get it out there. But Scud the Disposable Assassin was one of my favorite comic books ever. Had a very Looney Tunes feel. It's about a robot. You go to a vending machine and you can go kill people.
I know this.
Had a game on the Sega Saturn that was like you can use the gun to shoot too, like the actual Sega Saturn gun. Yeah. And I was at Comic-Con and in San Diego Con in like 94, 95, bugging the fuck out of every indie artist I could find. And Rob Schrab, the creator of Scud, was sitting there at a table. I'm like, "You're Rob Schrab," and I was amazed because Rob, I'm a Rob, he's a Rob. We have that in common. And and I was like, I love Scud. He's like, we're making a movie with Oliver Stone. It's gonna be claymation. I'm like, that's amazing. And we're making a game. That's fucking amazing. So, and Rob Schrab went on to work with Diane Harmon and write Monster House, and he worked on the Lego movie, and he was supposed to be directing Batman Lego 2. He worked on the Sarah Silverman show. Super creative guy. But Scud the Disposable Assassin, man, I remember just spending, gotta be about 2 hours at Comic-Con kissing his ass over that game. And it came out, it wasn't that good a game, but it was cool to see an indie comic title get its own physical game release, I'm surprised there aren't more indie games that license indie comics in a way, Wesley, like taking the shell of an indie game and like saying, hey, let's go team up. I mean, I guess no one wants to get involved in those legal entanglements, but it would be cool if you got a favorite indie thing you read, like What was I reading? Xenotrip I was reading the other day. Maybe a game like Chew. I don't know what you would do. It would be fun to take like a really fluffy indie title and turn it into like just a generic Final Fight brawler. You know, like Bone, but it's Final Fight. You just fight all the rat creatures, and you pick up the quiche and slam it in their face. You know, like Simpson style. So, any other comic book ports you remember, Wesley, back in the day?
Not really. Like, I mean, the old Super Nintendo games like Maximum Carnage was probably
Piece of shit.
piece of shit. I remember being super hyped for the second X-Men game that came out on the Genesis. Or actually, not even this. The second Clone Wars was decent. It was the first one. I was super hyped for that game, and it's so effing hard. Like Cyclops was like the only character you could do anything with, because anybody who had to be up close, you know, it's still treated like it was trying to eat your quarters. And I'm like, this isn't an arcade game. Be nice. So,
yeah, for me, it was at the time those brawlers were the best in the arcade. So you had the Turtles, both Turtles games, Captain America and the Avengers, which was amazing.
Yeah.
The Simpsons. But then you had the Spider-Man Sega game. Let's end it on this. The Spider-Man Sega game was the meanest comic book brawler ever because your health was based on a timer that counted down. Spider-Man walked incredibly slow. Like, I mean, he lumbered as slow as it could get. Mr. Heavyfoot would swing slowly. And every time he get hit, you'd also lose some time. And if you did your special move, you'd also lose some time. So I remember we first saw the game at Disneyland in 1992. We went to the 8th grade field trip to Disneyland. And my buddy, we got to the arcade, second right out, because we went to Star Tours, and then we were going to Space Mountain. He saw that was in there. He didn't leave the arcade all day. His whole Disneyland trip was playing that game. He brought like $50-$60 with him, never beat it. He spent his entire day at Disneyland and $60 in 1992, which is like $120, on an arcade game he could not beat. And I was like, we were all like, we spent the whole day at Disneyland and you played fucking this Spider-Man game. Eventually, I found it at these have these arcades out here out in California called Wonderland, where you paid like $3 to $5 to get in, and every game was like a nickel, and then they had a free section in the back. Did you have anything like that, Wesley, or do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we had a place called Nickel close by.
Same idea. And that Spider-Man game one day appeared in the free section, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna beat you, motherfucker. Dude, took me all day. It took me several hours of free plays. You fight Venom 700 times. You fight every villain. The last level, you refight all the bosses again. Like, it is the meanest. It looks pretty good. Like, they got the comic book style down and the sprites and the scaling, but it moves incredibly slow, and it is the meanest quarter muncher ever fucking devised. Like, fuck Sega. Whoever designed that game, I would love to just hear what was the corporate, like, how much did they pay for that license? They're like, okay, based on the license, we got to earn this much money back per hour in the arcade. So, you know, it was just so mean. It's the meanest game I've ever played in the arcade. $60, man. He couldn't beat it. I could barely beat it when it was free. You know?
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Because that'd be like what, 100? I mean, or more now. Like, I don't know what it would be now, but it would be more than 60.
He didn't eat. He just sat there. We didn't bring it. We were kids. We're like, fuck you, man. You don't buy a sandwich. I mean, you got money. You got $60. We didn't have $60, and he spent it all on a game. So went on no rides. Nothing. Just played this. It's the worst. Probably the worst Disneyland trip I've ever seen. I had a great time though. Fun time for Rob. All right, everybody. Ashley, where can people bug you on the internet?
You can find me on Instagram, and I'm Gang Feather.
Awesome. Drawing stuff for Megavision soon, maybe, right?
Yes,
Maybe,
I guess so.
Maybe not. Yeah, actually, I just talked to them, so we're going to be up soon.
Okay.
And Wesley.
And the creator of Puckman.
Creator of Puckman, Wesley. Where can people read Puckman?
They can find it at NZXT. Probably like blog nzxt.com. I think we posted it on Twitter recently too at NZXT. So, or you can find me, Wesley, or NZXT Wesley. That's my name on Twitter.
Awesome. And as always, folks, I'll be back on soon. We're going to be coloring Final Fantasy IX here soon. If you're wondering why I've been streaming as much, folks, I'm working on a grip of freelance. Like the Game Informer cover was 100 hours. And I had a week and a half. So between that and the IDW work, whatever. But it's mellowing back out. Just these opportunities come and they go away, you know. They're there, and if they're not consistently there. So if they hit consistent, then I'll just start turning things down. But it's not going to happen. So, all right, everybody, we'll be back on in 2 weeks for more gaming chat. We're going to get very close to E3, Wesley. Right, we're very, very close to E3. So
and this year I'm not going to miss it. Every year I miss it. Last year I missed it because I was listening to, for some reason, I was catching up on some podcasts and I was behind, but I thought it was real time for some reason. And so they're like, yeah, it's this next week. And really they were like, it was that week. Like, you know, I was behind. So I was like, right when I caught up, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. Oh.
Well, if we stick to 2 weeks, we'll actually be on during Sony's press conference.
Good. So we'll go there for that. And I do in the future, we'll start working on some of our like bullshit favorite games. I don't want to say the best of because who am I to say what is the best game? But I think I think we should do like our favorite games or something like that. So
Top 100 JRPGs.
RPGs, not JRPGs. They were very specific about RPGs.
I can do that.
You know, so
you make those.
You make those lists, you're just subject to ridicule. But I think bringing up our favorite games and kind of giving a sense of what we love about gaming, we'll be doing more of that pretty soon. So I'm going to try to get some other people on too for that, like maybe Jonathan Rector or someone, also fellow gamers. We can bring in some, maybe we'll get some of Wesley's friends on. You never know. You never know, folks, who might appear around here. All right, everybody, I got to get going. Say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. It's not going to play.
Goodbye, everybody. Have to go. Take care of a baby.
Later, Wesley.
Later.
All right. Well, I try to get the exit song to play. It doesn't want to play. Go figure. All right, everybody. I'll see you back later. Bye.